Chapter 5. Let's check it out. Selena was almost in tears when her country's flag rose as third placer, together with the first and second placers' country's flags. Although the music that was played was the national anthem of the first placer, her feelings were indescribable, as everyone stood erect in great silence, respectfully watching these three flags rise up to the ceiling of the huge auditorium. As Selena watched her country's flag rise very slowly, all that she had underwent through the years rushed through her mind. Here, her thoughts and feelings of the impossibility of winning over huge opponents were proven otherwise. And for the very first time, she felt very proud of herself and her accomplishments after all the years of international bodybuilding participation. She knew at this point of time that this was no miracle. Exercise 1. Will this be on the test? Is a common question that students ask when faced with an upcoming exam. Sometimes your professor will provide hints about what to focus on, but rarely will they reveal what you don't need to know. So be as thorough as possible in your studies. Be aware, though, that sometimes there's just too much material to remember all the fine details. When that happens, you will have to decide for yourself what is important. This is a part of learning. Sometimes it helps to learn the important concepts thoroughly, and then if there's time, commit the minor details to short-term memory, just well enough to recall them on the exam if needed. But don't try to cram in too much. You will likely get the information confused. Exercise 2. Online communities provide social and political outlets that were not possible before the invention of the Internet. They also allow for new forms of political and social engagement that are not subject to control by gatekeepers, who exercise power in a vertical, top-down fashion. The interests of the user determine whom or who users interact with. But the very power of peer-to-peer relationships should give pause to those engaged in them, as sometimes this engagement comes at great expense to personal privacy. This is not to say that an individual should avoid participating in social networking activities, only that the individual should consciously choose what personal information to reveal to the world. Though individuals might not realize it, through the release of this information, the individual is creating a digital identity that once formed can be difficult to change. Exercise 3. Both Vietnam and Brazil are major producers of black pepper, but they found it hard to sell their pepper even at cut-rate prices after India had a huge crop in 2001. So Vietnam turned in a big way to the production of shrimp. Over 1 million acres are now in ponds, and the value of the country's shrimp exports in 2001 was $780 million. That's impressive, but shrimp prices are declining too, and shrimp production is technically risky, especially when the producers are small and heavily indebted, as they typically are in Vietnam. In a world as tightly knit as ours today, it's not just the Vietnamese shrimp producers who are in trouble. American shrimpers on the Gulf Coast now supply only 15% of the American market, and the prices they receive at the dock are so low that many are going out of business. Perhaps their future lies in advertising their product as wild instead of farmed. For the moment, they're hoping a new tariff on imported shrimp will save them. Restaurant owners are opposed to a tariff, of course, as are the Vietnamese. Exercise 4. To explore the effects of mood on communication, researchers asked either happy or sad participants to accept or reject the videotape statements of targets who were questioned after a staged theft and were either guilty or not guilty. The targets were instructed to either steal or leave in place a movie pass in an empty room, unobserved by anyone, and then deny taking the movie ticket. So some targets were lying and some were telling the truth when denying the theft. Those in a positive mood were more likely to accept denials as trustful. Said participants made significantly more guilty judgments and were significantly better at correctly detecting deceptive targets. Negative effect thus improved the accurate distinction of truth from lies in the observed interviews. A signal detection analysis also confirmed that said judges were more accurate in detecting deception than were neutral or happy judges, consistent with the predicted mood-induced processing differences.